What's up everybody, this is Ambro from AMBG, and today we are going to talk about the upcoming superhero rumble, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. This game is being developed by Square Enix's Eidos Montreal studio and is coming out on October 26, 2021 on the PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, PC, and the Nintendo Switch via the cloud for $59.99 US. I also wanted to take a quick second to thank everyone who has subbed, liked, shared, or viewed the channel so far. We just passed 100 subs as of the last video on Halo Infinite. I know it's a small milestone, but I really do appreciate it, so thank you. Remember, if you do like today's video, remember to give it a thumbs up, and if you do enjoy the video and want to see more content like this, consider subscribing. So, there are a few things that you need to know about this upcoming comedy action flick, game from Eidos Montreal. We'll cover things from combat to the narrative and other important aspects. I also want to give my own opinion on something on the game. I feel there's a lot to unpack here, but I'll save that for the end of the video. Anyway, let's jump right in. Here are 5 things that you need to know about Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. First things first, you will be playing as Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, and only as Star-Lord. Despite the game revolving around a group of 5, you will only ever fully control and play as the human amongst this group of aliens/science experiments. Unlike another recent game in the Marvel Universe, being Marvel's Avengers, where you spend the single-player campaign playing as different members of the Avengers, you will spend the entirety of the game as the self-proclaimed leader of the Guardians. Speaking of combat, you'll have access to Star-Lord's iconic dual-wielded weapons, as well as a dodge move, melee moves, and even more powerful moves that you will unlock over time. That being said, you do have some agency over the other Guardians when it comes to combat. As you can see in the footage that's being shown right now, it looks like each one of the Guardians is actually assigned to a face button on a controller, at least. And when you press that button, it opens up another wheel where you can select a specific attack for that Guardian in real time. It does that kind of like slow-mo thing, so the game is still running, it's just giving you enough time to tactically figure out what you want to do. Some of these attacks will be straight-up attacks on enemies, and others will hold the enemy in place. You see Groot use this like cage-like attack where it freezes the enemy in place so that you can get some easy attacks in. And it looks like that as you're using these attacks, you're building up a momentum bar. So you can see that after each one of these kind of special moves, the moves get listed and the bar continues to progress. Once Star-Lord and the other Guardians have racked up enough damage and momentum, Star-Lord will be able to trigger the Huddle Up ability. You could think of this as like the Guardian's ultimate ability. Star-Lord leaps into the air, pulls out his iconic cassette player, and then launches into a flurry of attacks. So far from what we've seen, this move looks awesome. And it's also backed by some really awesome 1980s rock and roll. At least in the trailer, it plays Joan Jett's Bad Reputation.
Yeah, I smell it too! Come on, we got this! Perhaps these were sent by Lady Hellbender!
But what this ability also allows Star-Lord to do is use his teammates' abilities without waiting for a cooldown. As a plus, defeating the final enemy in an encounter with the Huddle Up ability active will end the battle in a nice cinematic fashion. The higher up that you can get this momentum meter in battle, the more points you'll have to spend on your squad later. Skill trees haven't been officially revealed as of yet, but hey, this is a Square Enix game. There's gonna be a skill tree. Another thing that can be noticed about the combat is in the health bars. They have unique identifiers on them as well as a stagger bar. I'm willing to bet that there are attacks that do more stagger to enemies than others. This is a tried and true combat mechanic in other games, and it's nice to see here, especially with the variety of moves and combos that you can pull off with the other Guardians. Another thing that I've noticed in the trailer are these different symbols on the enemy health bars. As you can see in the several combat encounters that we've seen, there are different symbols next to the health bars indicating possible weaknesses to certain elements or types of attacks. If you look at the bottom left hand of the screen during any combat encounter, you'll see these different symbols that represent elements like fire, lightning, wind, and then some sort of default, which may just be like physical damage or something. Anyway, you'll see these corresponding symbols next to the enemy health bars. While it's not confirmed, I'm willing to bet that there's a rock, paper, scissors type of system in place here, where you have to switch between different types of attacks on the fly and adjust to the enemies that you're fighting. This is another tried and true mechanic and should help keep the encounters feeling fresh and dynamic. Another feature that's neat and kind of ties into the narrative, sort of, is that you can select vocal cues that can boost your team in the middle of combat by giving them faster cooldowns or stronger attacks, all in a seamless manner. This is just speculation, of course, but maybe as you develop stronger and stronger relationships with the rest of your teammates, these vocal cues will carry more and more weight. It's just a hope, it's nothing that's confirmed yet. One last thing about the combat is that the AI for your teammates is apparently no slouch. According to the developer, when you're not selecting attacks for your teammates, the Guardians will fight independently and will also fight depending on their personality. For example, Drax will take on more enemies than he can handle because, well, he's Drax. That's just what he does. Whereas Gamora is much more passive and tactical and will only attack 1 to 2 enemies at a time. It's just something to keep in mind, but honestly, I love this about the game because it makes the personalities of the characters feel closer to the source material, as opposed to all the Guardians having the same exact attack patterns. Let's move on to the third thing that you really should know about Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, and that is this game is being heavily advertised as a narrative-driven, choice-based story game. As you've probably seen in the footage and the trailers, that you, acting as Star-Lord, will need to make decisions in the game. The choices that you make along the story will have an impact on how certain segments of the game play out. For example, you see in the trailer where the Guardians have to cross a chasm, and there's a button on the other side that will extend the bridge so that the rest of the Guardians can cross. Drax proceeds to pick up Rocket Raccoon, like picking up a toothpick, and threatens to throw him across the chasm so that he can extend the bridge for the rest of the team to cross. But the player is given the choice to tell Drax to either stand down or to encourage him to toss Rocket. In the little snippet of gameplay that we've seen so far, you encourage Drax to toss Rocket across, and you see a callout similar to what you'd see in a Telltale game that says Rocket is furious that you let Drax throw him. Later on, in the trailer, when you decide to put Groot in a box to sell as a monster, Rocket refuses to help you drag the box and in fact sits on top of it in typical Rocket Raccoon fashion. But this entire segment may have played out differently if the player had, one, not encouraged Drax to shot put Rocket across the chasm, and also perhaps if Rocket had been chosen instead of Groot to go inside the box. This is a great mechanic that will encourage multiple playthroughs, and I'm excited to see if these choices provide meaningful, different outcomes for the story. Not that this is going to be a Telltale game, but I know that some of the Telltale games, the choices that you made didn't carry as much weight as you thought they would. I hope that this doesn't fall into the same trap. Number 4 is that this is not a live service game. Square Enix has confirmed that this will be 100% single player. I know that this is ridiculous that this even has to be made so clear in this day and age, but with the way Avengers, Anthem, Battlefield, and lots of other crappily done live service games have been done, I appreciate them being upfront with us. Number 5, and the last thing that you really should know, is that this game is not tied to the MCU. Now, this is kind of obvious if you've seen any of the trailers or marketing material, but this game is not tied to the MCU in any way. The devs have made it very clear that this is their version of the Guardians of the Galaxy. You will not see them use the likeness of Chris Pratt or any of the other Guardians, and their voices will not be used either. The same thing happened with the Marvel's Avengers game, but a lot of people got upset that they couldn't, afford to use Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans' likeness or voices. I mean, do you really expect these devs are going to pay an overwhelming amount of money just to do that? We've gotten to the opinion portion of the video, but I just can't understand where the confusion comes from. There's so many people that you see commenting, they're like, why couldn't they get Chris Evans to play Captain America? I'm like, well, because they probably didn't have tens of millions of dollars to just throw at Chris Evans to appear in a video game. I get that we've all grown so accustomed to seeing guys like Chris Pratt play Star-Lord, but when people see that it's not him or any of the other actors for that matter, it's like the world is ending. I can promise you that is not the case, and for all you know, this might be your favorite rendition of Peter Quill in any medium in recent history. I know that for me, with the recent Spider-Man games, I loved that version of Peter Parker. I loved the voice actor Yuri Lowenthal's take on Peter Parker. I hold it close to my heart as one of the best representations of one of my favorite heroes. I feel that we as gamers have to give this game a chance before we really judge it. Yes, it could still end up like Marvel's Avengers, but it could also end up like Spider-Man. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to support the channel further and see more content like this, hit that subscribe button. It would really help out, and I'd greatly appreciate it. Be sure to follow me on Twitter or comment down below on anything you'd like to see me cover. Also, comment down below and let me know what your thoughts are on Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Excited? Or another Avengers fiasco? I'll catch you next time.